Neville, in his own way, is very much the Shakespeare of metaphysicians. What I mean by that is he's a poet. He's a mystic poet. Basically, what I've come to understand is this is a model of reality. Like, it's a model through which we can understand reality. And that's this idea that everything is consciousness. But we, as students of metaphysics, are at the point where it's like, oh, actually, when we start to look at the universe as being a product of consciousness, as everything that we could possibly experience being consciousness, this actually becomes a key that unlocks all doors. What excites me more than anything, Joey, it gets me so amped, so pumped, is when I imagine a world full of people who remember, who ask this question and they are greeted by the answer. They remember. Whole world full of people who know that we are infinite creators, who all come together and play together.
The power you seek lies within you, as we are each infinite beings living a human experience. The truth of who and what we are has been hidden from us until now. Awaken, my friends, to this new reality that we are in fact creating everything through the power and the gift of our wonderful imagination. Join me as I unlock the secrets of our past and reveal the truth that has been clouded in this veil we call life. What reality will you choose to create today? The choice is yours. Welcome, my friends, to My Reality Practice. Hello and welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the Reality Practice podcast. Today's guest I am so excited to bring to you is Josiah Brandt, known to many as the creator of DailyNeville on YouTube. Josiah is also a futurist, humanist, veteran teacher, and outspoken advocate for the exceptional potential of heart-based humans worldwide. As the founder of the Neville Goddard School of Imagination, Josiah invests his time in cultivating the creative skills of his students, community, and empowering his private clients to rise to the top of all industries and create enterprises through their extraordinary ability to imagine wisely. So, without further delay, let's give a warm welcome to my friend, Josiah Brandt. Welcome, my brother, to the Reality Practice podcast.
Thank you so much, Joey. It is an honor to be here. Really glad to have this opportunity to connect with you and share a conversation.
Oh, God, I'm literally geeking out. I mean, the honor is all mine. Just, I don't have as many people that I can dive into Neville with. My wife, not the one to talk to about it. So it's like when I can get an opportunity to really dive into Neville, I mean, I could go for hours and hours. I'm sure you get that often.
I could too. Yes.
Yes. Oh, there's just so many principles. There's so many teachings that are spot on. I mean, They're just divine, universal truths. So, I'm so excited for you to share this knowledge of Neville and the power, really, of our own imagination. For me, I feel like Neville, he ranks right up there at the top of, New Thought authors, from Joseph Murphy, Napoleon Hill, Florence Shen, Joseph Venner. They're all so powerful, but Neville's truths, his universal truths and teachings were just out of this world. He was so ahead of his time. I don't even understand. Maybe you can enlighten us as we get into this. Like, how was he able to do what he did? How was he able to understand and comprehend all this and give it to us in a way that it made so much sense? It blows my mind. So, without further ado, I want to get into what it all, I had two primary reasons really to have you on the show. One, awaken the audience to Neville in a simple way here, to share these principles, these teachings and techniques, so that we can all decipher it and we can expose so many more people to this power we all have, And then secondly, of course, I want to get into what it is you're doing with the School of Imagination, with your DailyNeville podcasts, videos on YouTube. Your channel's huge. It's growing so fast. I'm so happy for you. So let's just dive right into it, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Let's,
So Neville, Neville, I've come to really understand and view him as the Shakespeare of metaphysicians. It truly is amazing. The way that Shakespeare was this poet, and he used words and he used ideas in kind of a way that hadn't really been used prior to him, right? He's kind of a game changer in the way that he brought stories and ideas to life, archetypes, really, archetypical stories through the acts, the plays that he wrote, and how that really catalyzed the world. Neville, in his own way, is very much the Shakespeare of metaphysicians. What I mean by that is he's a poet. He's a mystic poet, and he is sharing. And this is the most beautiful part. He's sharing not something that he learned somewhere else, not something that someone else taught him. He's sharing from personal experience. He's experienced these truths directly, and he brings this incredible artistry to the words. And when I first heard him, that's really what I fell in love with immediately, was the way that he was speaking. And it's authentic. It's not premeditated. It's not, oh, let me sit down and write a poem and then get up in front and read it for people. No, this is just flowing through his being. And he's really giving life and articulating and being the embodiment of these beautiful truths in a way that is catalyzing the world today. Thanks to the internet, people are coming across this and they're hearing it, and they're exploring it, feeling it for themselves. I think that's really what it is. It's when you hear Neville speak, there's a deeper part of your being. I can speak from experience. For me, when I first heard him speak, there was a deeper part of my being, way beyond just what I was hearing in my head. There's a deeper part of my soul that stood up and said, this is it. Learn from this man. He knows what he's talking about.
Yes, it is. I love that you said, it wasn't something he was taught, necessarily. I feel like for most of us, this is our same journey. Sure, we're reading, we're learning, we're being taught all these things, but at the end of the day, we have to dive inside of ourselves. And we really have to open up that door that's locked in there for most people. And once we unlock that door, it's magic. It is beauty. It is wonder and joy that we just can't imagine until we learn how to imagine, right?
Exactly. Until we do it. Yes.
Yeah. So who, real quick, like, who was Neville? How did he even come on the scenes? Like, all these new thought authors, and then all of a sudden, just boom, here's this guy that's just sharing from his heart this journey that he's been on, and some of the things he's accomplished and created, just mind blowing. Like, you couldn't believe it unless you actually were there and saw it. And it's like, what is going on?
I think the first thing you need to understand about Neville, to really understand Neville, is that he was an actor and a dancer. He was an actor and a dancer on Broadway, right? That's an accomplishment. And this was primarily in the 20s, right? So he grew up in Barbados and he moved to New York City, chasing this dream of being an actor and a dancer. And he became very successful, even though he wasn't even trained. He had no formal training in acting, no formal training in dancing. And he was able to become extremely successful, probably because he was using his imagination even before he knew the power.
Before he knew what he was doing, right? Yeah, I think we all are subconsciously doing that for sure. From the moment we're born, we're creating this, but we don't know how we're doing it. We don't know the powers, what doors to unlock, right? So it's like we're all just going around innately doing this. But what Neville teaches us, what he brings out to our awareness, is the power we have to literally control it. And I think he outlines it so well and makes it so digestible for people that it becomes common sense almost, in a way, when you hear him, especially when he relates Bible verses and biblical texts, that universal principle that is within the analogy, the story. And when you can really step outside of it and look into what that means, it's like, of course, why didn't we see that before? I mean, that makes so much sense. So,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So definitely raised in the Christian tradition, Neville was.
mhm.
And it was really in the 20s, having been a successful actor, dancer. He was going through some things like I think a lot of us do in our 20s. He's literally in his 20s, in the 20s.
Yes.
I think a lot of us go through things in our 20s, trying to figure out who we are, trying to really discover our deeper identity, maybe find meaning and purpose in life. And Neville was going through that. And he actually shares some of this story. He went through a period of time where he was, giving up meat, he was giving up sex, he was giving up alcohol, all these other types of things. He's kind of on an ascetic type diet.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you're talking about stuff that freaks out probably a lot of the listeners. Like, wait, I got to give that stuff up, or
Mm,
this was his journey.
this is
This
his
is what
journey.
helped
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So he was going down that path and trying by in an earthly way, right? By giving things up, he was trying to find God. And in that process, he actually met Abdullah. Have you heard of Abdullah?
Oh, yes. Yes. The
Yeah.
great magical Abdullah. Yes.
Yes, magical Abdullah, a man of mystery. There's been a lot of students that tried to track down who Abdullah was. He's kind of shrouded in mystery, right? Which I think is by design. He's just kind of this mythical, epic, legendary teacher, and he's in the metaphysical lineage of both Neville and also is it Joseph Murphy that he also taught. There's another author. It's not coming to me at the moment, but he's taught a couple people that became very, very influential. And so when Neville went to Abdullah, Abdullah said, you think that by giving up these things, you're being more spiritual, right? You think, but really you have no idea, Neville. You actually have no idea what's actually going on. And so that's where it leads to the famous story of Neville coming to Abdullah and saying, Abdullah, I need to go to Barbados, right? And I don't have any money. I'm unemployed. Great Depression, right? 1929.
Right.
I don't have any money. Nobody's paying me to dance or act right now. Nobody cares about the theater when the markets are crashed, right? So
Right. Yeah.
I'm stuck and I need to go home. I have this burning desire to go home. And, and this is when Abdullah teaches him how to manifest. And he says, Neville, you already are in Barbados. As you walk out of this door and you're walking down the streets, this is December, right? So the snow's piled high. You're imagining that you are walking down the palm tree lined streets of Barbados. And he teaches Neville to move in his imagination into Barbados. And of course, Neville manifests a bridge of incidents that brings him to Barbados. And that's the story that really begins Neville's epic journey of learning, remembering, and expressing who he truly is.
I love it. And I love that you mentioned the remembering. I fully believe that is what we are here to do. We were such infinite creations, each of us, and it's just a matter we forgot when we come back, when we chose to come back and experience all this, the good, the bad, all of that's what's needed to evolve to the next step. We have to experience it. So, I love that idea of,
forgetting is an important part, right? The fact that we forgot, we chose to forget, yes. Right? And it's because there's treasure in this experience of forgetting that we may remember. It's the most joyful experience we can have to forget, right? To imagine that we're these small, limited creatures tied up into a body of flesh and blood, limited by our circumstances, limited by our conditions, and then to discover and awaken to the truth that sets us free. And it's the greatest story ever told. It is the hero journey of all heroes' journeys, is forgetting completely who you are, imagining you're this tiny restricted creature, and then waking up and realizing and remembering who you truly are. It's an epic, legendary journey.
I love it. And that leads right into the first question. I want to dive deep and just understand what Neville taught. And it all fundamental principle. It all begins with his concept of I am.
Yes.
And the fact that you can expand, can you expand on this idea that, consciousness came first, or the I am came first? I know you discussed that in some of your videos, and there can't be anything without first recognizing the I am power that we each are.
Mm-hmm. So this is the concept that has even unfolded itself more for me recently through some experiences that I've had. I share this a little bit more in some of my videos, but basically what I've come to understand is this is a model of reality. Like it's a model through which we can understand reality. And that's this idea that everything is consciousness, even though it appears to have substance, even though it appears to have atoms, molecules, right? Scientists are zooming in and they're going as deep as they're going as deep as they possibly can to try to find what is the smallest, building block of the universe. And every time they go deeper, it just gets deeper. And ultimately, at the end of that tunnel, right, which is infinite, is consciousness. Consciousness is first. And this is a model of reality. Now, just to be really clear, not everyone on planet Earth has adopted this model of reality. There's a lot of scientists that are still searching. There's a lot of scientists that aren't aware or haven't come to the conclusion that consciousness is the foundation of reality. They're still looking, right? But we, as students of metaphysics, are at the point where it's like, oh, actually, when we start to look at the universe as being a product of consciousness, as everything that we could possibly experience being consciousness, this actually becomes a key that unlocks all doors. And it's really, really powerful, really, really beautiful. And this idea of I am, to get into that very, very specifically, it's this idea of I am comes first, right? Before I even know that I'm human, before I even think of having a gender, before I even layered way on after that, think that I have a name or a history, a past or a future, or any of these other ideas, all these are stacked on top of this one root fundamental idea. And that one root fundamental idea is the simple awareness of being. Now, this is something that we're not really taught to experience, and at least I wasn't growing up, and I think a lot of other people
we're not, and I think it's by design,
yes.
But thanks to the internet, like you said, this age of information now, or maybe as I talked to somebody I talked to earlier, this age of information is bringing this. Yeah, you said it earlier. It's bringing this awareness to us that has been hidden more or less, not on purpose. We just didn't have the means necessarily to have it readily available. And now that it is, it's awakening the world to what's real.
Yes. And I love that you said it's awakening the world to what's real. So being a self-described futurist, right? I think a lot about where humanity is on the timeline of evolution, and the evolution, not just of your consciousness, Joey, or my consciousness as Josiah, but the consciousness of the collective in general. And what I love about what I'm witnessing in this world, as we're speaking in this very moment, what I love about what we're witnessing is that consciousness of the collective is evolving. And what I mean when I say that is the collective as a whole is asking different questions, and how appropriate it is that at the time when we're finally starting to ask these bigger questions. And what I mean by bigger questions, there are a lot of years, thousands of years, humanity's been asking questions. What am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? How am I going to stay warm? How am I going to survive? How am I going to take care of my kids? Right. And some of us are still asking those questions, but on a broader scale, humanity's finally starting to evolve into a place of a little bit more physical security, meaning slowly but surely we're becoming more stable in that way. And of course, I'm talking about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs here too. That concept overlays perfectly. More and more humans are reaching that top, which is self-actualization, which is asking these bigger questions, which is, who am I? And now that I'm not afraid of dying tomorrow, right? What am I actually supposed to be doing with this gift that is life?
And bingo. Yes, that is exactly what I took out of that. You said, we've been over time, we've reached that physical stability now. And all these years, all through our evolution, it's been fear-based questions. How am I? Fear of, lack of food, lack of shelter, lack of security. And the more we're becoming secure in all these aspects, you're absolutely right. It allows us to ask more, to dive deeper into, if I don't have to worry, like you said, about dying, because I'm an infinite being of light. I can't be created. I can't be destroyed. So what is there really to worry about? And what's next? Those questions, what are we capable of? If this is the reality of what we are, it's like, infinite realities at this point. What do we want to create?
What excites me more than anything, Joey, it gets me so amped, so pumped, is when I imagine a world full of people who remember, who ask this question and they are greeted by the answer. They remember. Whole world full of people who know that we are infinite creators, who all come together and play together. In my mind, that gets me so excited. What can we create when we all know who we are and we all come together and we all play together?
I love that. My original mentor, he always used to say and tell me, we are all simply just simply gods playing amongst each other. You know, we're all a little dot, a little piece of God. And now we've been given this gift called life, which we get to play and interact between you as a God, me as a God, this person is a God. It's like, what can we create together? That's where the real harmony, that's where the beauty starts to come, I think, is when, sure, I can create it in my mind, you can create it in your mind, but when we get on that energetic level and we all start to collectively create this same understanding, why can't we fly yet like a superhero? Because our conscious understanding says we have to get on a plane. That plane doesn't even exist. We are floating and we're rocketing through the air at 35,000 feet and we're flying. But our construct creates this idea of an airplane for us to fly until we no longer need that construct, and the consciousness of the world starts to understand that we don't need it anymore. I can fly simply by going out and flying. So yes. It's an amazing future we have coming, you know. Next question I got, Neville says that man's chief delusion is the conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Can you expand on this as far as the delusion we all are awakening from?
I love this. This is one of my favorite quotes. He says, you read that quote, and he also says, belief in second cause is the greatest tyranny. It's a tyranny, right? Living under an oppressor. And that oppressor is this belief in second cause. So what does that mean? It means I am, right? Which is the awareness of being. I am, capital I, capital am. I am the cause. So what that means is the cause is here. I am the cause. My awareness of being is the cause. My self-concept is the cause, and the world is the effect. Now, the easiest way that I have found to explain this is to think of the world around you, the 3D world that you move through and walk through every single day, your life, as a mirror. It's basically a mirror. And what it does is it reflects back to you your beliefs about yourself. And also, it's not just about yourself, it's also your beliefs about others, right? About other people, about other things, about circumstances, conditions, whatever the sum total is of all of your beliefs about the world. We'll just use that as the world at large. That all those beliefs come alive in the field of consciousness for you to walk through and experience them. So the next question is, well, if I'm experiencing something I don't want to experience right now, what do I do? And it's very simple. You have to just simply change your consciousness, change your awareness, change your state, which basically means rewriting your beliefs. Now, I know you can say, well, how am I supposed to do that? And it starts by asking that very question. It starts by asking the question, what would I prefer to believe is true? What would I prefer to make a content of my consciousness to walk through and experience? And then this is so simple, very simple equation. It's simply believing it to be so now. Believing it to be so now. When you understand that you are the creative power, your consciousness is the creative power, the only answer is to believe so now.
I love that answer. And you talked about tyranny to self, you know, and that we're all, you know, we're all committing this tyranny to ourselves. And I think it was Neville that said that, you know, to sin, the idea of sinning is to fall short, to not live up to our full potential. So the real sin, the real tyranny to ourselves that we're creating is our cap, our inability to see how powerful we actually are. You know, we're just not, we're awakening to it, but we're not quite there. Humanity hasn't been there for so long. And so, yeah, they're coming, they're getting there. So he taught also, you know, the next step in kind of that is that assumptions and desires, they're really the fundamental building blocks that are creating our reality and creating the present experience we're living in. So how does that view differ from the belief that, a lot of people out there, and you talked about it, they see things that happen to us that are good and, as lucky or chance or coincidence versus a direct result of our assumptions and our desires? Can you kind of expand on that for everyone?
So that goes further into this illusion of second cause, right? It's
Yes.
like, what is really the cause of the phenomena of my life? What is really making all of the things that I see happening? What is really making that happen? And Neville teaches us it's assumption. In fact, Neville teaches us that really it's our only power is assumption, and that the only free will that we have is the free will to choose what we assume to be true about ourselves, about others, about the world. And beyond that, everything else beyond our assumption is compelled by our assumption to happen, meaning that we can't actually affect anything. He says we are personally impotent. And these are powerful words, right? He says, personally, you are powerless except for your ability to choose what you are assuming. Now, that may seem like a kind of a paradigm shock or paradigm shift right there. But when you understand that we're consciousness and that we're observing reality, and what we're assuming, we've proven this scientifically, right? What we
Correct,
like,
yes.
our expectations going into observe something affects the outcome, right? So it's just that idea, but expanded into, oh, this is actually happening in every single area of my life. Now, here's the thing that can confuse some people potentially. So they're like, well, I don't remember assuming this to be true, but yet when I look out at the world, here it is. So that's the difference between a conscious assumption and an unconscious assumption. And we all have a plethora of both. So this whole process of awakening, as is so often referred to, this idea of waking up, is this idea of taking what is below our conscious awareness and expanding it in to our conscious awareness. So as we become more and more aware of our state of being, of our assumptions, and this, just to make sure this is not an ethereal idea, when I say assumptions, the most concrete thing that you can look to in your own awareness as you're listening to my words right now is think about your self-talk. What goes on, that little voice that talks in your head, talks about things, makes up ideas, tells stories about what is happening. That is your self-talk. And all of your self-talk is compelled and driven by your assumptions, right? So that right there is the easiest way to look in the mirror of your own awareness and say, what is actually creating my reality? It's actually your self-talk, which is dominated by or directed by your assumptions.
Right. And it stems from our subconscious. That's how we've been programmed for all these years, to rely on our subconscious for protection, for direction, to keep us safe, and now as we're learning how this all works, we can step outside of that subconscious protective mechanism and start to actually implement, the fundamental, these principles that are at play in creating what we desire. Neville said, the truth that sets us free, we can either be a slave to our assumptions or we're the master of them.
Yes. So I look at this as transfers of power, right? So it's like, I can either transfer my power, because remember, infinite creators, we have infinite power right here available to us through our consciousness. We can either take that and transfer it to a so-called authority or a circumstance or a law or an idea, right? In the world of men, we can either take that power and give it to them and then say, oh, well, that person over there said I can't do it, so I guess I can't do it, right? That's taking your personal power and it's transferring it to them. We can do that. And a lot of us did. I know for me personally, there were many years of my life before I started to wake up where I gave all my power away to this idea, to that idea, right? To the so-called global elite who are so-called controlling everything. Oh, they have my power. I'm powerless over here. Look at them. They're controlling everything, right? That is not the case, but it is, as long as I'm giving them my power, right? But it's not
Correct,
the truth, right? It's not the true truth. It's just simply the temporary truth until I reclaim my power. I bring it back and I say, well, wait a second. Who's actually running this show? It's actually my assumptions, and I actually have the power here, and I can make a different decision about who I give my power to.
I love what you said there is something that I've grown into understanding. Did I blame a lot of what's going on at one point in time on evil, on this or that, pulling the strings, only to realize that it's only the reflection of my own subconscious thoughts that have created this, so I can learn from it, so I can learn to see the beauty, the love, the compassion with, they play the perceived evils are playing a very important role in helping humanity understand that we have to love, we have to show compassion. And it starts with having compassion and forgiveness for ourselves for believing in the lie of the illusion we're living in, right? So I believe that for a long time, that there's no right, there's no wrong, there is no good, there is no evil. There's only the perception of the two and the meaning we place on them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what Neville describes, talks about in the power of assumption.
Mm-hmm. That is the key idea. Yeah, it's the stories that we tell become true for us because we're consciousness and we are the creative power. And those stories that we're writing, we're literally the author, actor, character, and we experience all of this. And it's simply a matter of becoming aware that this is the case. And this is the coolest part, Joey. When we become aware that we're actually writing all of this and that all of it serves a purpose and all of it has served us from the beginning perfectly, it's all been perfect the entire time, we start to realize that we're actually living in heaven. We're actually living in heaven right now. It's not over there. It's not something to get to later. It's actually been here all along. And Earth is the Garden of Eden. We never left. We just simply fell asleep. And now we're waking back up and reclaiming our inheritance.
Oh God, my head's tingling, it's resonating, you're speaking truth there. Neville talks about the narrowness of focus and how it's key to creating our reality, because he said that the power of attention and how a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Can you explain the power of this focus, that laser-like focus, as opposed to getting distracted? I feel like we live in a world of infinite distractions, and they're there to keep us distracted, not by the powers that be, but by our own selves. It's like, how much crap can I throw on you, and how many flashy whistles and bells and whistles, whatever, how much can I throw at you? And when will you realize they're all distractions? Shut them out, single-minded focus, and the world it changes instantly.
Yes. That's Jedi level superpowers that you're describing there, Joey. I feel like our Jedi level superpower in today's day and age is attention and focus. There's a lot of people that have had some challenges with attention and focus. And the good news is just like you can manifest anything else in your life, you can also manifest increasing attention and focus. But let's talk about this idea a little bit. So there's, just first of all, let's acknowledge that on a daily basis, in fact, maybe even in 3 hours, in this day and age, we are exposed to more information than we took in an entire lifetime not that long ago, right? Like the velocity of information is unsurpassed. It's absolutely insane how much is going on.
I've heard it referred to over the years as the quickening. It's just compiling on itself faster and faster and faster and faster. Quantum is just expanding, and it's like, it's just overloading us at this point with the information that's available.
Yes. We're swimming in a sea of it every single moment. We're swimming into the sea of information, a sea of other people's opinions, right? And so what that is that's a catalyst. It's a catalyst for our growth. And what that growth state is learning to focus and cultivate the power of our attention. And so the basic idea here is that attention, sustained attention, is a measure of our personal power. So how do we apply this? So remember when I said a few moments ago, I said, you have to assume that you are it now. You are whatever you desire to be now. Now, the measure of your personal power is your ability to sustain your attention on that assumption. Now, attention is like a muscle. You want to do bicep curls to build your biceps, right? You can do attention exercises to build your muscle of attention. And really, the more quickening that happens, right, the more important this becomes as a life skill for humans. It actually becomes kind of like a superpower.
Right. I mean, we have to be able to disseminate where we want our energy to go, where we want our thoughts to go. And I think, explain how we eliminate those distractions. I think using the power of renunciation, it's there's one thing to resist something versus to renounce it. So I think this is a key fundamental in clearing our minds of all of this congestion that's coming in. How do we learn to renounce these ideas, these thoughts that serve you no purpose? They need to be removed.
What a beautiful question, Joy. So the idea of renouncing is to withdraw your attention from it completely, to turn your back on it and walk away.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
It can be.
Yes. For a lot of people, for most of us, including me, yes, that is a hard concept, hard pill to swallow.
What made it easier for me, Joey, was growing into the realization that attention is the most valuable currency I possess, right? Beyond any—
Not time. Everybody, I've always heard time is the most valuable thing, but you're saying Neville says attention actually is the most valuable thing. I love that, because that's time doesn't exist. It's past, present, future. There's only now. So, the idea of focusing your attention on the now and being present, that's the key. That's such a hard, for many people, that's so hard because of those distractions. So again, how do we renunciate? How do we remove these distractions so that we can live here and now?
So the key idea here for me, and this is something that Neville taught too, but the first time I heard it was not when I immediately became it. It took some time for me to grow into this idea. But basically, it's this idea of understanding that attention is the most valuable currency we possess, and then beginning to treat my attention that way, to accept and treat my attention as though it were that valuable. So when you start thinking about currencies, right, it becomes this idea of what am I investing into? Now, this was a paradigm shift for me. When I started to think about my attention as investments, I started to realize I'm a very, very wealthy man, right?
Wow. And that is so powerful. Just that you saying this is like changing my whole paradigm and shifting into this reality. I've been looking at things in a lot of things the wrong way. And this is gold right here. Thank you.
Yes. Supremely valuable. Place supreme value upon my attention. Understand that we are very wealthy. I'm a very wealthy man, very wealthy woman, very wealthy human, right? And my wealth is denominated in my attention. And as a wealthy person, all wealthy people are, by very definition of being wealthy, they have to be competent investors, right? So this is a paradigm shift. It's like now my attention are my investments. And then each and every day I get invitations, just like, when you hit the jackpot and you've suddenly got $500 million laying around, what happens? Your inbox fills up with, invest in this, come invest in that, come donate to this, right? So it's the same thing. I'm now infinitely wealthy. And what do I get? Invitations, little notification on my phone. That's an invitation to invest my attention. Get an email in my inbox. It's another invitation. I get a phone call, another invitation, right? My partner calls my name, another invitation, right? So when I start to see that everything is an invitation for me to invest, and I understand and I properly value my attention as being my most valuable currency that I have, I start to choose very wisely what I invest my attention in. And so for me, the rubber hitting the road example I can give you right now is I used to read the news until I woke up in this way. And I started to realize that I, as a wealthy man, do not desire to invest the wealth of my intention into someone else's story. I would rather invest the wealth of my attention into the story that I am writing for the world. I'm no longer letting someone else tell the world's story for me.
Literally, we could end the interview right now with what you just shared. That was so amazingly well put, especially in this time and age. Gosh, I hope people rewind that and literally hear you say that again. That is so powerful, and I feel we've kind of covered the basics, the fundamentals of Neville, but now I'd like to shift into what I believe his true power, his true teaching was, and it was our ability to live in the end and how to assume the desired result, how to become it, by living in it, believing it, seeing it, feeling it, tasting it, smelling it, touching it. Share with us how Neville believed, living in the end, how this concept works. Because I talk a lot about it, but I think you're probably the most expert person I've had on here that can really explain what that means.
Yeah. So living in the end is one of my favorite ideas from Neville. And I was really introduced to this idea by Neville. And he says it in a way unlike any other mystic or teacher that I've come across. He really does venerate this idea of living in the end. So I'm gonna break it down the way that I understand it. So the way I understand living in the end, it starts with profound clarity, a penetrating clarity. You have to know who that person is that you desire to be. And you have to it can't just be this, kind of ethereal, blowing around, smoky idea. It has to be razor sharp. It has to be laser-like clearness, right? Laser-like focus and clearness.
That's the focus we were talking about. Yes.
Focus, yes. So you write it down, right? So for me, this was, I wrote down, and you actually read part of it right there at the beginning when you introduced me. It's my bio, right? But then beyond that, I also write down my values. I write down, as the man that I am, the man that I desire to be, which is the man that I am, what are my values? What are the principles by which I live my life?
Your core beliefs. What is your general operating procedure, your program? Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Well said. Absolutely. So you get really, really clear and you write it down because there's magic in the written word, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's a matter of being that person and living in the end of being that person, meaning that you remove the gap. A lot of people say, oh, I will be a better man tomorrow, or I will become a wealthy person in the future. I'm working on getting here, getting there, doing this, doing that, having this, having that, right? You have to remove the gap. That's the key of living in the end, right? So it's like, let's remove the will be, let's remove the time gap of, oh, it's over there, it's then, right? And let's assume it now. Let's live in the end of it now. So this is the idea of, you buy a plot of land, just use this as an analogy, right? You buy a plot of land and you sit down with an architect or, he's going to draw out all the blueprints, right?
Right.
So, all the blueprints, and the house is starting to be built, but you're living in the end. So rather than staring at the house step by step, board by board, what are you doing? You're out shopping for furniture because in your mind, you're living in the end that it's already built, right? So it's like the best analogy I can give is it's like,
it's beautiful. Yes, that's a perfect analogy. I love that. And it kind of comes down to the idea of free will as well. He says that we possess the power to alter the course of our own future through our free will. And it goes back to where we put our attention. And we have the choice. We were gifted the infinite possibilities. So which possibility do you choose? How do you take that free will and direct it towards the course of act, the way you want your life to be? So I think that's a lot of where the power of imagination now starts to come into play.
Yeah. Neville says over and over, imagine better than the best you know, right? This is like a challenge, right? Like one of those challenge accepted type moments.
Yeah.
Whatever you think you want in the world, use your imagination and actually go a step beyond. Become playful. There's, I teach adults at the School of Imagination. I have all adult learners. And really a lot of what we do is connect back to that childlike curiosity, that childlike wonder, and that childlike imagination. I remember as a child growing up, I used to play pretend all the time. I'd pretend that I was an explorer, a starship captain, a this, a that, bank robber, whatever it was, right?
Hot lava on the floor, you're
Yeah,
jumping
exactly.
between the rocks and the boulders and the volcanoes
Exactly.
exploding. Yes, it's so much fun to go back
Yeah.
there.
You have to allow your imagination to come alive in that way and get playful with it. It's easy to make metaphysics, kind of this very serious topic because it's like the creative power of the universe, and it is. And also, the whole reason why we're here is to have fun. We're here to play, right? So imagine better than the best you know. Think about whatever you see out there. It's like whatever cars, that are like the top of the line cars, the best made right now. Look at them and then be like, I'm going to imagine something even better, right? I'm going to imagine something even better. So for me, it's the Megadrone, right? I imagined that long before I ever heard that term, Megadrone. I was like, there's going to be something. I just type my destination. It flies me right there. I don't have to touch anything. I don't have to file any flight plans. It just goes, right?
And it's already there.
It's
you
already
just
there.
have to align with that frequency, continue to imagine and harmonize with it. And boom, at some point in time, it will appear and you'll be living in that reality, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's, I guess it kind of, a lot of it has to do with the other real powerful concept Neville talks about, in his book, The Feeling is the Secret. Emotions, feelings are literally what's creating our reactions, I guess, to the world around us. So when we can understand those feelings and harness those emotions for creating good, for creating the life we want, explain how, the idea, the concept of the feeling is the secret.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that have been taught, and a lot of teachers that have taught the power of visualization, right? There's all these self-help books, all these business success books that talk about visualizing what you want, and that's part of the equation. But the real power in a visualized image is the feeling, right? And this is the part that some people they don't quite get this, and you have to play with this. Again, play, right? You have to play with this to really understand it. But the whole idea is, rather than just visualizing it, just seeing it in your mind's eye, you have to connect to the emotional feeling that you would be feeling were you experiencing it right now. And basically what that does, you hear what I just said, right? It's actually what it does is
repeat it, because that is so important what you just said, that the audience has to take this in.
Yes. So you have to feel what you would be feeling if it were happening right now, because it really, truthfully, is happening right now. So when you feel that it is happening to you right now, the creative power of the universe doesn't know the difference about whether it's 3D or in your imagination, right? You are feeling it right now. And that is the creative power. That's the magnetic, that's the powerful pulse of energy that goes out and catalyzes circumstances and conditions and arranges everything to bring it back to you. And then you do experience it, right? So it's like it's like you get to read ahead in the book, a couple of pages, right? You're like, oh, and then this happened, and then you feel it. And then you're pulled back to where you haven't actually experienced it yet. And then bridge of incidents, you walk across it, this happens, that happens. And all of a sudden you're there and you're living it for the second time. But this time you can taste, touch, feel, hear, and smell it.
I love it. I love it. I mean, that incorporates everything, as far as what Neville teaches and how to use these superhuman powers that we've all been gifted. We just have to awaken to it. And I think you went through so much right there. There's so much with Neville. I mean, you could spend a lifetime and still not get through all of his lessons and teachings. But the idea is, the simple process kind of that we went through here is really the fundamental building blocks. If you can start there and understand it, then you can always expand at that point. But that is the foundation for your house to be built on, your mansions, one of the many mansions, that exist. You're building your own mansion one brick at a time. And I think the lessons you just gave are so powerful. I mean, it is the first brick, right?
It really is. It really is. It all starts with starting to become aware of these ideas and then playing with them.
And I know for me, I've during my meditations, I get often shown new visions of where I'm going to be. I see often the end of this happening and that happening. I don't know the middle, but I see the end and I feel it, and I'm there. I'm standing on a stage, but it's like, I don't know how to get in all the in between. And that's the fun part. That is the imagination creating to get you to that end goal, right? And I think that's a lot of what the school of imagination is all about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So these are the fundamentals. These are kind of the basic building blocks. And then what we do at the School of Imagination is we hone and refine them to the level of superpowers, and we do it together as a group. It's a social aspect, right? It's other people who are on a similar page, on a similar journey, the similar level of burning desire and passion. And we come together and we sharpen and hone these skills together.
Oh, that's fantastic. I grabbed, you just made me think of it. I had to grab it off my wall here. I created a product that is a paint your reality. I've learned how important creativity and our imagination is. And so many people say, I can't visualize, I can't meditate, I can't see what I want to become. You know, it's like we have this block. So for me, when I realized the power of art, the power of creativity, it made me think, well, I was one of those people in the beginning who couldn't visualize. What would make me see it? What would make that image come clearer? You know, single-minded focus you speak about. So, you know, this is my paint your reality. And this was actually the one I did of myself last August. And on October 15th of last year, I was standing on a stage in California in my blue suit in front of an entire audience like this. And I didn't even have that secured yet. That didn't even exist. I painted this reality. Yes. And I meditated on it. I allowed the feeling of being there while I was creating this image in my mind. I allowed the love and the feeling to overwhelm me. And next thing you know, I get offered this opportunity to speak on a stage, and I'm literally there. I brought that to my reality in a matter of a couple months from nothing. And I knew you would appreciate it as far as, you know, the idea of creativity and imagination. And it made me just think like, oh my gosh, you know, that is how it's done. And there's so many different ways people can learn to use our imagination. We can learn to visualize. For some people, this works. For other people, this works. Is there anything specific you would recommend for the beginner, the novice, you know, even an expert? How can we better use our imagination to design the reality we desire?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love what you just showed me there, that painting. That's awesome. And what I love about it is, you know, speaking from science, from a neurological science perspective, when you're drawing and painting in that way, you're accessing and exercising different aspects of your brain. And that can actually be very beneficial towards developing and cultivating some of these imagination faculties, which can actually make you a more prolific creator in that way. So yes, I also, I not so much painting, but I have been drawing. A lot of times I'll just draw as a way to kind of access that alpha brainwave state where I'm just in the present moment and just things are flowing through me. One of the key go-tos for me in my journey so far has been writing. I've come to understand that there's tremendous power in the creative act of adding language to a feeling, right? So I summon the feeling into my body, whatever that feeling is. Yeah.
You know, and just the idea of journaling and really just creative writing, just letting that from what's inside of you, just letting it out. It doesn't even have to make sense. It's just giving it that avenue to release itself, right?
Yes, it's powerful. It's incredibly powerful. And there's an element of using the creative power that you are to alter physical reality, which you do with your brush, you do it with your pen, right? There's something magical about that because it's a replica in miniature of what we're doing all the time anyways. So it cultivates that faculty.
Exactly. I talk about it often, and I'm writing a book regarding, you know, the idea of scripting your reality. And like you said earlier, we're all the actors, we're all the writers, we're all the directors, we're all the extras, we're all the parts of this movie we're calling life. And we have that power within us to script it out any which way we want it to be, if only we have the faith, the belief, and the trust that this is how it works. And thanks to science, it's quickly proving that this is exactly how it works. So, you know, we're coming into such an age now that we can really, oh, it's magical. It really is magical to say that, you know, to put it simply, you know. So let's talk about DailyNeville, your YouTube channel, blowing up. Congratulations. I mean, your followers, the amount of people you are impacting with your show and introducing to Neville, I was blown away. What, you know, after you're like, oh yeah, I'll come on your show, and I go look at your channel, like, holy shit. Like, I didn't even understand the reach you have with sharing the truth of Neville. And it's so amazing. It is so needed right now. And I tell us what your show is. And everybody needs to go literally after this is over, go to your channel, hit subscribe, and don't miss an episode, because it's life-changing.
Yeah. So the premise for DailyNeville, I say it in every episode, it's taking the teachings of Neville Goddard, breaking them down, making them easy to understand, easy to digest, easy to apply in 20 minutes or less. So the whole idea behind this is making it very easy to incorporate these mystic teachings into our daily life. It's like a daily dose or the daily bread of the truth. And it's inspiring, and it's expanding, and it is life-changing. And this was an inspired idea I had after 2021, investing a whole year into some of my private students at the School of Imagination. We did a year-long course. And at the conclusion of that, I had this amazing group of creators. And one of them came to me and said, Josiah, I love your teaching so much. I would love to see you dive into the work of Neville and break it down and say it, kind of expand on it and update the language and just do your thing, do the Josiah thing with what Neville says. And I thought about that and I said, this is a gift that I can give. And I got really excited about it. I put together the pilot. I launched it on YouTube. This is season 1 now. I think we're about halfway through season 1 at the moment. This is something I intend to continue for a while to come, because it is so important to get these ideas out there. Right. And doing it in this kind of digestible, broken down format is just so valuable. It's treasure. It's absolute treasure. So yes, come to my channel, just search on YouTube, DailyNeville by Josiah Brandt. Subscribe to it, tap that bell icon so you get the notifications. There's a premiere every single day, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I should say Monday through Friday. I do take the weekends off.
We all need to take a rest at times. So yeah.
But yeah, definitely come check it out. I have exercises every day, prompts every day to keep the engagement going. So yeah, it's a gift that I'm giving, and I'm extremely happy to do so.
I can speak from experience. You know, it is so, the channel is amazing. The way you break down Neville and the lessons just is so simple to understand. You know, I know we just did a crash course on it, but for those of you really wanting to dig deeper and understand what Neville was revealing to us, I can't think of a better place to go than to Josiah's channel and just diving in. You will not be disappointed. So, all right. Before we get to the last question, real quick, where can people find you? I'll put some links in the comment box or in the description box below, but real quick, just where can people find you, your channel, find you on Facebook, School of Imagination? Real quick, share with us.
So my website for the School of Imagination is schoolofi.org, schoolofi.org. So where all of my courses are. There's courses open for enrollment right now. I've got more coming that I'm super excited about. On YouTube, DailyNeville by Josiah Brandt. You can just type that into the search bar, you'll find it. And on Facebook, I have a student Facebook group of Neville students. In particular, it's called the Neville Goddard School of Imagination. And you can just search that and you'll be able to find it and request to join. And then the last one is I've recently started an Instagram page. It is Josiah Brandt Official.
Wow, very cool, very cool. I'll have to start following you on there for sure.
Look forward to it. Yes.
Time for our last question. I ask every guest that comes on the show this same question. And since this show is focused on our ability to create the reality we desire through our own imagination, if I could snap my fingers right now and instantly transport you to your chosen reality, what would you create? Where would you go? And what would the world look like?
Honestly, Joey, from the bottom of my heart, I mean this so sincerely. I'm living it right now.
Best answer I've heard yet. And I hear some good ones. And I honestly, I'm not taking away anything from that. I was asked that a few days ago, that same question basically, and I had the same response. It's like, I'm already living this fantasy called life. Is it perfect? No, but I'm learning how to develop it and how to build it into the perfection, the heaven on earth that we all are entitled to live once we get out of the way of our own delusions and our own limitations that are only from us within, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
God,
That's the key.
I can't thank you enough, Josiah, for coming on the show today. This has been amazing and mind-blowing. You know, the teaching of Neville is so needed. It is so powerful. And you, my friend, are awakening the world in a way that very few are able to do. So thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your show, your channel, and all that you promote. I am grateful for it because I'm creating my own reality and I'm using you to show me how to do that. So I love it. I appreciate you.
Honored to be a part. Thank you so much, Joey. And thank you for everything you're doing in the world. I see you active all over the place. You're making waves too, my friend. And it's an honor to be on your show, honored to be aligned with you in this way. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. And at this point, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this show. If you like the interview, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button, give Josiah some love. If it resonated with you, be sure to share this with your friends, share this with your community. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit it down below there so that you're notified of all the upcoming episodes each week and then of all the other videos that come out throughout the week. So until next time, thank you again for watching. Stay blessed. And remember to always ask yourself, what reality are you choosing to create today? Bye, guys.